tiny little group today. It is spring break. Thank you for being here on spring break. So we're a little bitty baby group today, so we'll give people another 2 minutes in case folks come on board. But we're gonna be able to have a really fun, in-depth discussion since today is a discussion-based group. It's gonna be awesome. So oh my goodness, look at that, Moon is already on it. So find your chat, and as we're giving people 2 more minutes to log on, just tell us your name, your role, and your college in the chat, and maybe what you're doing this spring break. There's some people. If this is your spring break this week, last week, next week, tell us when your spring break is. Welcome everybody. If you're just coming in, thank you so much for coming today. It's going to be kind of awesome. We have a smaller group today, so it'll be fun. If you would do me a favor and just find the chat, and then just tell us your name, your college, your role. I see some new faces. Hello, Alexis. Is that how I say your name? Cool. Welcome. And I see Heather. I don't think I've seen Heather before. Hi, Heather.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
I can.
I'm sorry. Something is always happening with either my mic or my video. It's always one or the other.
That's just life with Zoom. We got this.
Yeah. Struggle life.
So welcome aboard, everybody. Go ahead and find that chat, and in the chat, tell us your name, your college, and what role you play. We love to see the nice variety of tutors and faculty members and staff members. We got some folks who have been here before. Super awesome. Good to see you all back. And I see some new faces too. And I know we've got some tutors in the room. We've got some faculty in the room. We've got some staff in the room. So let's let everybody represent. So welcome aboard, everyone. We've got some embedded tutors. I know that we have some faculty here. I know we've got a couple of directors in the room, so it's good to see you all. Today is really about mixing it up and talking to each other about these important topics. So thank you so much for being here. We'll go ahead and get started. And if you haven't already, do find the chat, tell us your name, your college, your role, so we can get a good sense of the mix in the room. So today is going to be a discussion-based workshop. It's going to be a text set and a roundtable discussion on boundaries and netiquette. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how we set up the learning environment. This is part of a longer series. You don't have to go to the other ones in order for this to make sense. They all stand alone, but we've put together a couple of weeks where we talk about setting up a powerful learning environment, where we have good, strong strategies, and we set everybody up so that they know exactly what's going on, know exactly what to do, and so you can manage your session. And so today we're going to be focusing in on what are the boundaries, what are the rules, what are the ways that we manage the tutoring session when it maybe goes a little bit sideways or in directions that we don't really want it to go in. So again, share your name, your college, your role in the chat. And just as a bonus at the end, if you count the Shira characters correctly, I will send you some stickers in the mail. So feel free to count them, and we'll see how that goes. Next slide. So just in terms of introductions, my name is Crystal. I am the director of the Tutoring Center at Pierce College, and I'm also a coordinator for the California Community College Success Network. That's the organization that provides professional learning for equity and success across the state of California. And they host this amazing party that we get to throw every 3 o'clock on Fridays for learning assistance professionals and peer educators. So we also have with us Fatima Mamdani. She is a recent college graduate. She was an economics tutor at Pierce College. And now she is working for 3CSN, helping us think through how we build up our peer education network. We also have Cameron over there, Cameron Brenner-Chanchian. He is a political science tutor and about to get his master's degree, and so he'll soon be a peer with us. We're very excited to see our peer educators then become our peer colleagues. So really exciting to have Cameron here as well. Next slide. So the way this is going to work is that we're going to start off with everybody muted, but not everybody will end muted because today's going to be a discussion. So if you have a question, please do type it in the chat. or raise your Zoom hand and we'll invite you to unmute yourself at any time. If you can't find the raise hand and you want to answer a question or you want to ask a question, you can put a 1 in the chat and Cameron's going to be watching the chat to make sure that you get recognized. You may know where those reaction buttons are at the bottom. As we're going through this, please feel free to react. Sometimes with our cameras off and ourselves muted, it feels a little bit like you're talking to a room of nothing. We know you're there though, and we know you're doing stuff. So if you want to give somebody a little bit of love, but you don't feel like turning on your camera, that is okay. Use those reaction buttons too. We want to find different ways to engage and different ways to get people involved in the discussion, and it's not always going to be a microphone or a camera. So we will have some conversation from 3 to 4 on boundaries and netiquette, and then from 4 to 4:30, we're going to do a deeper dive into a specific example. We're going to show you a video on how we establish the oops, ouch, sorry method in a tutoring session. So if you want to stay from 4 to 4:30, you're very welcome to, but we'll have a stopping point at 4 o'clock if you need to go. Next slide. All right, so if you are confused, you have a question or you want to answer somebody else's question, go into the reactions and find the little raise hand feature. If you'd like to try it now, you can do it and I won't call on you, but after this, I'll call on you if you raise your hand. So feel free to practice. Again, if you can't find that or it doesn't work, you can put a 1 in the chat and then we'll figure it out that way. Do put your questions, comments in the chat, and please feel free to answer and comment on other people's questions and comments in the chat. Again, it's a Zoom session. We can't all be actively talking at the same time. We're not always going to have our cameras on and our microphones unmuted. So use that chat, use the reactions, stay engaged, talk to each other. You don't have to wait for us to answer questions. This is very much your space. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about what we want to do today. So again, I mentioned before that this has been a part of a series about how we create safe, engaging learning environments that are powerful and where people know exactly what to expect and we give them high support and high engagement. Today we'll focus on specifically maintaining those safe environments, setting those boundaries in the beginning of your session, and then how to work with sessions that go a little bit sideways. But we're actually not going to talk, we're not going to lecture all about this. We're actually going to demonstrate an activity called a read together, where we have curated a couple of readings. You're going to think about what you want to learn, pick a reading based on what you want to learn, and then we're going to get ourselves into groups and we're going to talk about your experiences and what you read and what you think are the good boundaries, netiquette, and session management principles. We'll share them all together so that way we're really engaging people from the ground up and not just listening to somebody yak at you at Zoom all day. Next slide. So just before we get started, to kind of get our minds around what we're about to do, I always like to set up some community agreements. We actually had a whole session on how to set community agreements last week. We talked about how this is always important to do every single time. So today, this is what you can expect, and this is what we would like from you. Be ready to engage. You're going to be reading, discussing, and if you stay from 4 to 4:30, you'll see some video examples and discussing those. Do be ready to ask those questions and also to support each other's questions. Answer each other's questions in the chat, share your strategies, share what you do. Let's make this a collaborative space. Sometimes this can be a little touchy when we start talking about boundaries and what to do when things go sideways. So let's just remember to cultivate empathy and human connection, and do share your experiences in your breakout rooms in the chat and help people share their experiences as well. I will put you in breakout rooms today, so if you're unable to participate in those breakout rooms, just send us a message in the chat. We don't want people in the breakout rooms if they don't want to be there, because it makes the breakout rooms miserable for everybody else. So if you can't be there, if you're multitasking, if you're doing 7 different things, just send me a chat. I don't judge. I just won't put you in a room. Please, I understand that we're all busy and we're all doing a lot of things right now. We want to respect that, but we also want to make sure those breakout rooms are powerful. And again, use the chat, use the interaction buttons to keep it active throughout. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about why we want to talk about boundaries and netiquette. We are in a whole new world here. We've been in it for about a year, and although we might be going face-to-face, we're back face-to-face soon, we're going to stay online for quite some time. There are new expectations for when you're on the clock now. There are new expectations for when you're on the clock now. And some of those expectations are right? There are new standards for how we act and appear in our homes, as opposed to in a public setting. A lot of people feel less connected, and therefore empathy sometimes can take a little extra cultivation, and connection can take a little bit of extra cultivation. And there are new rules and new norms about how we interact with others online. So let's make that explicit. Let's make sure that our peers maintain the personal and professional boundaries with other peers so they can make sure that learning can take place. And this is especially important with peers, when peers are working with peers, because quite frankly, peers are less scary, which is great, but it also opens us up to some less appropriate and less formal interactions, which is great on one hand, but can also have some dangers on the other hand. So we want to make sure as peers that we're establishing those rules and boundaries early and maintaining them often. Next slide. So we're going to go into a quick reflection exercise. You can start thinking about the boundaries that are important to you, and then we'll do a little bit of reading and then some discussing. So Fatima, take it away.
Thank you so much. So I want you guys to take some time to reflect on what brought you here in the first place. So I want you to take a few minutes to reflect on what brought you to this session today. Think about some experience in online learning in the last year, as well as previous years if you've been doing this for a while. Have there been any situations in which you felt like boundaries and etiquette were unclear or missing, or an expectation mismatch that interrupted learning? And what was the result of that? So go ahead, think, write, or type about a situation that happened to you. If nothing like this happened to you, don't worry. What do you anticipate happening maybe now or in the near future with online learning? So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. I'm setting my timer for 2 minutes. So go ahead, think, write, or type. Before we start, is there any questions about what we're doing? Okay, so we're gonna take 2 minutes to think, write, or type about what brought you here. Okay, so we're gonna do something called a Mentimeter. So if you're confused on what a Mentimeter is, don't worry, I'll explain it a little bit more. So what you're gonna do is that there's gonna be a link in the chat that Cameron's gonna send, and it's gonna open a window on your browser up to a question where you want to list one of the boundaries or online agreements, such as netiquette, that you think is important to establish in an online peer educator environment. So I want you to reflect on situations that actually happened to you or that you anticipate happening, and share whatever you think is most important. So go ahead and click on that link. If that link is not working for you, no worries. Go on menti.com and enter this code 92393854, and that should also take you to that same question. And if that doesn't work, you want to do that again, the link is in the chat. Cameron is sending it. And again, answer that question, list one boundary or online agreement that you think is important to establish in an online peer educator environment. And you should be seeing some answers popping up. So mutual respect between student and tutor, come prepared to work. Again, if you forgot the code and the link wasn't working, it's also up on the top where it says going to menti.com, and as well as the code. Take a few minutes, write your answer down. Don't forget to push submit. It should be coming up on the screen. I believe that a late work grace period should be allowed just in case of technology issues. A good one, establishing boundaries on being late to appointments or no showing without letting the tutor know. Broadcast camera on, but give option for camera to be off. Remain calm and collected even if you are frustrated. A lot of good ones coming in. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to Cameron, who's gonna talk a little about what we're doing next and using these. I posted from the beginning. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, I'm gonna pass it over and let Cameron take it away on tech sets.
All right, so we're going to be going over tech sets today. We're going to be talking about what they are, what we mean by them, why we use them, and what their purposes are for. This is very much a very collaborative-esque activity. Next slide, please. All right, so let's go over why we use text sets. Text sets encourage reading stamina and fluency. It promotes student choice and independence, and students generate the learning, and it's guided by the educator. How do we use text sets? Well, first we create a text set. Students choose one of the texts to read it. Students pair up in groups and discuss, and then students share out. Now, when we say we as educators are going to curate the text sets that the students are giving. We're giving them the option to choose from a list of texts that we have personally picked out for them. Next. So on the right, on the, I'm dyslexic, so give me one moment if I get my right left mixed up. On the left side, this is the student outcomes and student goals and student objectives with text sets. The right, the left, the right is for the educator. So as we said, text sets allow a choice and entry point for students. So this allows them to make a decision on which text they're going to be reading, what they're going to be engaging with, and how they're going to be engaging with it. It allows them to practice and stamina, so it helps them with their reading skills. It helps them understand how to handle literary texts. Another important part is it sharing knowledge and vocabulary. So when we have students pair up in these situations, it allows them to interact with one another, share what they've learned, share what information is useful, share things that they found from the text that were stood out to them. And the last part of that is that it's really important to remember that text sets put the student in the forefront, not the educator. The student is the center, the locus of learning in these kind of these activities. And that's really important here is to remember that this is student-based learning, where we are guiding, but we are not leading. They are the ones who are making the content, who are coming up with the ideas, and we're just facilitating it by giving them information. Now, when we talk about text sets, there are two different types of text sets. There are vertical text sets, and then there's horizontal text sets. A vertical text set has different levels of difficulty. So we're talking about maybe you're talking about like netiquette. So you're gonna have maybe a journal, an academic article, a website, but they're all on the same topic. They're all about netiquette. They're all tackling the same idea. Then there's horizontal, which is different perspectives on a topic. So you might be talking about netiquette, but you might not be talking about the same aspects of netiquette. You might be talking about setting boundaries, understanding when you make a mistake, how to set up a healthy environment. Is really important to remember that you don't have to actually use one or the other. You can do a mix of both vertical and horizontal. The whole point of this is that it's student-based learning, that the students feel comfortable, the students are able to engage and learn from this experience. And you, as the facilitator, are the one helping them reach those goals. All right, next slide. Now, the next thing we're going to be talking about is the four ways in which we the 4 steps in which we do text sets. So the first one is you have to select a text. So basically you go out there and you look for a text that has something to do with the topic you're looking for. You read through it, you analyze it, you see if it's relevant. If it's not, maybe find a new one. But basically you are curating the selection the students are going to get. Now, the next thing is engaging the schema. You're like we did with the Mentimeter. We asked you questions to have you think about the concepts of netiquette before we got into the reading. So at this moment, you're making students come up with prior knowledge, come up with ideas. So they're already prior engaging with the concept before they go into the reading, which is really good because it preempts them. It starts them to think about thinking. It's kind of this metacognitive kind of thing where you're making them starting to think about it. The next thing is you allow the students to then choose the text. So you give them about time to like find which text they want to read, then read the text and give them the moments to read it, facilitate it, understand it, comprehend it. And and if you're on a time limit, you don't have to finish the text. It's if they can, that's great. If you can't, it's not the end of the world. It's just glad that you actually are able to start reading and you got somewhere, and that's good. And the last part is making meanings and key passages together. So this is where the sharing part of the text set comes in. This is where people will share out what they found. They'll find their golden line, something that stood out to them while reading that really made them connect with it. And this is a really important part of this process because this is where the students get to engage hands-on with the activity. They went from a small group now to a big group where they can now discuss what interesting concepts they've encountered, what they thought about it, and they can share. And you are going to be there guiding them, but you're not the center of this. You are just ensuring that they are having a healthy, safe, comfortable, good discussion. Next. Oh, sorry. One thing about engaging schema. I forgot to mention that there are different types of engaging schema. We have right here you have the Mentimeter, but you can also do quick write, think, pair, showers, or KWL, which is know, want to learn, want to know, and learn. I think I got it right. And these are all different, so you don't have to use the Mentimeter. You can use many different schemas. Sorry, I just wanted to go back to that topic really quickly. All right, that's it for that one. All right, so we're going to try out ourselves. I'm going to be distributing a link in the text that is going to give you to a set of 3 texts that have to do with netiquette. And you can go and read them and select which one you really want to engage with. There you go, it's in the chat.
Yeah, so go ahead and click on the link in the chat, and there'll be a folder with 3 articles. And I know it may be tempting, but you're only going to read one today, but feel free to download all 3. So again, pick one from your set. So when you're choosing one, I want you to think about what you reflected and shared on. So take a few moments to look through the articles and preview them, look at the title, the first paragraph, and whatever else is meaningful to know, skim through. So you're gonna see these are all horizontal takes on the same topic. One of them is about online boundaries. One of them is about norming controversial conversations, which is the oops and ouch method. And the second one is conflict resolution, or what are you supposed to do when things get a little awkward? So, which experience speaks to you the most? Answer your questions. Think about what you want to know and what you do know. So go ahead and take 2 minutes and choose one of the selections.
If anybody is having problems viewing them, let me know. Just put your email in the chat and I can email them to you also.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully you all chose an article yet. So what we're gonna do is that I want you to download the article you picked, and so you can read it more deeply. So I know you're excited, but don't read the article yet. I'm just gonna give you a few instructions before we start reading. So we're gonna read the article, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna choose a golden line. So a golden line is something that you may find confusing, something that resonates to you, something that kind of jumps out at you, or something you disagree with. So again, try to find at least one, but that doesn't mean there only could be one. Okay. And here are some agreements that I think is good to have while reading together. So the first one is give yourself permission to read silently in the company of others. So if you feel uncomfortable with your webcam on, feel free to turn off your webcam because you feel like your focus face is kind of weird. So no worries about that. Feel free to turn off your webcam just when we all come back. If you want to turn your webcam on, please do so. The second one is give yourself permission to enter the reading at any place and to choose how you want to move through and around the reading. So if you want to start from the end and read from end to beginning, middle to end, if you want to skip portions, nothing's stopping you from doing that. Feel free to do that. All right. And the third one is give yourself permission to not finish. Again, you're not required to finish this complete reading right now and read as fast as you could. We want you to read as much as you could, resonate with the material, connect with the material. I think that's more important to us than just finishing the reading, right? The fourth one is note golden lines for yourself as you read. So again, something that's either confusing, that you disagree with, that resonates with you, or something that just kind of jumps out at you that you think is like an incredible idea. Feel free to like highlight that, take note of that. Again, do whatever you feel comfortable with. And the final one is give yourself permission to have questions for, even disagree with the author. So you don't, just because we provided this text set, that doesn't mean this is the answer, this is correct, and you can't question it. You are allowed to not agree with what the author is saying or have any questions if there's anything that's confusing. Again, create your own opinion about it and try to pick apart the article because we would love to hear your thoughts on it. And this is our first little stop and notice to let you know that there will be small group discussion from here on out. So if you're doing a lot of other things, if you're cooking, cleaning, taking care of a kid, petting your dog, and you just need that time and you can't do breakout rooms, it's completely fine. Just let us know that you can't do a breakout room, or feel free to leave the meeting, and we will provide materials and recordings. Just remember to email Crystal. Crystal's email is listed in the bottom, and let her know, and she'll send the recordings and materials if you feel like you need to leave or you aren't able to attend the small group discussions. So we're gonna have 8 minutes to read. Before we start reading, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to raise your hand. Let us know in the chat. Any questions at all? Okay, I'm gonna let you guys have 8 minutes to go ahead and read the article. Enjoy. That's my timer.
Kitty.
So let's all come back together and let's talk a little bit about what we're gonna do next. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna put you all into breakout rooms, and in that breakout room, some of you are gonna have, you're gonna read the same article, some of you are gonna read different articles. Both are great. So when you get into those breakout rooms, I want you to introduce each other, introduce one another, your name, your college, your role, and take turns describing the article, your major takeaways, and make a list of major ideas or advice that you talked about. So here are some questions I want you to think about and discuss while in those breakout rooms. How and when would you use this information? What strategies does it make you think of? And under what circumstances would this come in handy? Okay, so in a few moments, we're going to have Cameron put a link in the chat, and that's going to open up a series of slides, the collab slides. So when you go into those breakout rooms, you're going to see a breakout room number. So find the slide that corresponds to that group number, and that's where you're going to write down all your notes. I think Crystal's going to be sharing that right now to see what it looks like. Let me stop sharing. Okay. So for example, if you're group 2, you're going to go to slide 2 and you're going to answer that question. What are the major concepts or strategies that emerge from a discussion that you'd like to share with others? And in the bottom, you'll write all your notes down on what you discussed. So your key takeaways, any advice, all that good stuff. So does anyone have any questions, concerns? Feel free to raise your hand. Put a 1 in the chat. Again, if you missed a collab document link, it's in the chat again. Cameron posted it again. Any questions, concerns, thoughts?
All right, neat. So I think I've got everybody who's multitasking right now and can't go into a breakout room. No problem. If you asked me to not put you in a breakout room, I put you in a breakout room, just don't accept it. I put you in a non-room room. Everybody else is in a breakout room. We've got 3 people per breakout room, so it's looking good. How long do we have in their breakout rooms, Fatima?
Oh, so sorry. So you have, hold on, give me 2 seconds.
We'll see you back here in about 10 to 12 minutes.
There you go. That was the time. Thank you.
Any questions before we go? All right, when we come back, if you have questions, feel free to come back and let us know. When we come back, we'll take a look at everybody's sides and we'll have a share out. All right, so away we go. Happy breakout rooming, everybody. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Slide 2, I see breakout room number 2, pulled it together at the end. Great job. I love that you shared out. So we would love to see a little share out. And excuse me, Cameron, I know that you were going to facilitate this, but I know you've been in a breakout room, so we got you. So just in our last few minutes today, we would love to hear a little bit about what boundaries, what netiquette, what lessons, what advice you have for the rest of the group today. And so if you would like to share something, we would love it if you would raise your hand. But as you're trying to be brave and deciding whether or not you're going to be the sharer, we actually have a question. We were staring at your slides as they go along. It's really fun to watch people think and do their work. As somebody in breakout room number 4 said something that we were very interested in. They said that the oops, ouch, whoa method may not always fit into certain situations, and it may not always be the best option. And we just thought that was a great insight. And we just wondered if anybody from group number 4 would mind telling us a little bit more about that. When is it and when is it not appropriate to do the oops, ouch, whoa method?
We talked about, we had 2 people who read it. I was one other person. But we kind of talked about it could be a little distracting. If the method is to, like, if someone's talking and you say, because I was trying to picture how it worked in my head. Like if someone says something, do I say ouch, oops, or wow during the conversation, or is it after the fact? So I think that's when we kind of said, oh, it might be distracting, or you may not even be in a setting where you could use it. So I think that's what we kind of agreed upon.
Thank you. Thanks. We really appreciate that. And we had some discussion around that as well. And actually, if you want to stick around at 4 o'clock, we'll show you what it looks like to establish that if you want to see it in action. But also, like, it's very context specific, right? We'll show you what it might look like in a political science tutoring session, right? Where it's like, oh my God, it's so important to establish something like that in political science. But maybe in math, you know, if you're going to do like a 5-minute algebra question, maybe you don't want to spend, 5 minutes establishing the oops, ouch, whoa method, right? So definitely a great insight. Does anybody have anything to add? Is it Lonel? Is that how I say your name? Or Lonel?
Lionel.
Lonel. Okay, thank you, Lonel. Does anybody else have anything to add to Lonel's comment about how oops, ouch could be, that's a great idea, but it could be maybe a little bit clunky or maybe distracting in some settings? Or anybody else have any other insights about oops, ouch, whoa method in general? Because that came up a lot in the slides. Go ahead, Constance.
Well, I think it all depends on who you're with, and I think all of us have probably done enough tutoring or mentoring that we kind of get a feel for it. And this was the 3 words. That was the article I read, and it caught my attention because it was new to me, and I thought, oh, I'm going to put this in my toolbox. You know, my so it's there if I need it. But I'm so glad, Liddell, that you mentioned what your group talked about, because that gives me more to think about. And it's certainly not appropriate for every one-on-one or every group, but it's it's there if we need it.
Right. Thank you.
And it's good to know these things, and yet we want to be really careful.
Yep. That's right. Great. Thank you so much. Now, I am very excited and ready and prepped and pumped to talk more about this particular issue. We threw it in there thinking that, a couple people might read it, but it really came up in the slides. So we're really going to focus on it from 4 to 4:30. And I'm really excited about talking about more about it. But I also want to give y'all a trolley stop because I know some of you only plan this until 4 o'clock and you've got other things to do. And so let me just say now that at this point, we are going to continue the conversation about this oops, ouch, whoa. We call it oops, ouch, sorry, but we'll show you a little video, a 4-minute video on what it looks like to establish it in a group setting. And we'll talk more about this, when it's appropriate, when it isn't, if you've done it, all that kind of jazz. But if you can't stay for that, Jan, our observer today for 3CSN, is going to put a link in the chat to an evaluation. If you would be kind enough to click on that and tell us how today went. We're going to do a very similar protocol next week, except instead of exploring boundaries and netiquette, we're going to be exploring engagements and connections online. So same kind of idea, right? We're going to talk about what a text set is and how to do it. I hope you enjoyed text sets today, and I hope you're able to use some principles of a text set in your own educator toolkits. It's a great way, as you can see, to give people choice and to allow people to draw their own conclusions and really to make the learning student-centered. We hope you got a lot out of that today. If you'd like more practice with it, we will be, again, doing something very similar next week, but with an entirely different topic. So do come back. If you managed to count the Shira characters, do feel free to tell us how many Shira characters you saw in the presentation. If you get it right, I'll email you and get your address and send you some stickers. We got them ready to go. Also, we have an amazing PowerPoint presentation here that we all made together. So you have the link to it, but do feel free to look this over and see what other people thought about oops, ouch, whoa, and other methods, and use this as a resource, not only for you to understand what happened in some of the other groups, but it's a potential resource in your own educator toolbox as well to use for your own purposes. All right, so Jan has put a link to the evaluation in the chat. We hope to see you all next week. Thank you so much for sharing this Friday with us and your spring break with us and your afternoon with us. We really, really appreciate seeing you all here. So I'll see you all soon. If you gotta go, if you're gonna stick around, we would love that too. So bye everybody who's gotta go.